Hey, what's going on? So I played in this kind of cool format tournament on play.limitless the other night. The rules were you had to add 20 Pokemon, 20 trainers, and 20 energy in every deck, which I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool. I like these different kind of formats, especially right now when there's no like major tournaments or anything going on. I really have nothing to test for. So I wanted to play in this. And I figured most people would end up playing like Lugia, Miraidon, Dialga, just like things like that, decks that are basically already a 20-20-20 deck. So I wanted to do something a little different, and I wanted to play something with Xatu because you're playing a bunch of energy, so it can turn the energy into draw. I figured that would be fun. And I ended up just going with Dragapult. I added the Mewtwo EX, which for 2 Psychic does 10 plus 30 for each Psychic energy attached to all your Pokemon to try and be able to counter Lugia. Didn't end up being that good of a counter. It was actually pretty bad. I should have just played Spiritomb, but I just went with, a pretty straightforward deck list because didn't really have much of a choice with that. A 4-4-3 Dragapult, a 3-3 Xatu, just a ton of draw. Mew EX ended up being really good in the deck, which was cool. And deciding what trainers to play was probably the hardest part. I figured Arven was really good because just drawing with research and Iono all the time would probably just draw a bunch of energy. So I wanted to be able to pick specific cards out of my deck. So I went with 4 Arven, and 3 Iono, still having some disruption was good. And then just stuffed as many ball cards and stuff in there as I could. And yeah, the tournament was really cool. It was a lot of fun, and here's the games. Alright, so this is round 1. We are up against Dialga. I think this is the guy that had also a Palkia and an Arceus in his deck, if I remember correctly. I played a couple Dialgas throughout the tournament, and like one of them had a 1-1 Arceus and a 1-1 Palkia as well, so that they could attack with Greninja. This might just be the regular Dialga though, whatever, it doesn't matter. I have a pretty good starting hand for, this kind of a format. I got lucky enough to draw Buddy Poffin. I only played 3 of those, so that was pretty lucky. I did like some test games beforehand, like how you can do it in the deck editor and just play against the live AI, which is really funny the way that it works. Like if you click the 3 dots in the deck editor and click test deck, they like program the AI to just play all the items out of their hands and then like attach an energy, play all the items, and then a supporter. So, and then abilities. So I was playing against like the AI was playing Lost Tina, and it would just play all of its switch cards and switch back and forth between comfies and not use flower selecting, and then use 1 flower selecting at the end. I don't know, it's kind of funny. But yeah, I don't know what I'm debating here. Oh, this is my second turn. Yeah, I was just trying to figure what to attach to and trying to decide if I wanted to attach to the active so that I still had the option to get my TM Evo. I Ultra Ball for a Xatu here to get some draw going. I maybe should have just gone for a Dracloak. That might have been a little bit better, but I didn't. So I hit this Mew for 10, which doesn't really matter. I also wanted to build up the Mewtwo just to have some, like, maybe an option to one-shot. I wasn't really too sure how I wanted to play this matchup. And my original thought, I don't know, it got kind of mixed up in my head. I was thinking that the V-Star only did 220 and Mewtwo has more than 220, but obviously they would V-Star my active and then knock out whatever I sent up. But I just wanted to have the option of something that wasn't one of my engine Pokemon. But they do just Metal Blast. I think they probably should have just V-Starred me here, but they didn't, so I'm just deciding what to do. And I end up deciding to send up the Dreepy because they don't really have much set up right now. So if I can just get 3 energy onto this Mew, I can copy their V-Star and then knock out their Dialga here. And that seems like it'd probably be pretty good. Maybe I wouldn't even get attack next turn, or at the very least, probably just they would knock me out with the Dialga V on the bench, because they're probably going to hit 3 energy, I would guess. Actually, they only have 1 Metang set up. They might not do anything. So it kind of seemed like a good idea. And now the deck is kind of rolling here. It really worked probably better than I thought it would for, this kind of a format, but it was kind of cool because with this specific format, you can't really make a super turbo deck, so every deck was a little bit slower, which made the format or the tournament a lot more fun. Just having like a couple turns to build up your board, and then once like I got my board built up, this is like a pretty solid board state. I can draw my entire deck basically and use Dragapult's attack, which also is really strong. So now I can boss and take 4 prizes in 1 turn, which seems pretty good. And here I'm just debating if I want to boss the Matang or if I wanted to boss the Mew. And I end up going with the Mew just to try and get through the game as quick as possible. Now I should be able to win in 2 more turns, almost no matter what. I don't really know if there's anything they can do to stop it. Yeah, so this game ended up turning around pretty quick, and I was pretty happy with how the deck performed this game. My opponent has all the cool Matangs. I kind of forgot that they even made pre-release promo Matangs. But they get another Mew. They did play 2 Mew EXs because in this you kind of had to like fit a bunch of random Pokemon into your deck to head up to 20. Dialga's like kind of close to 20, I guess, to begin with. I know Dragapult decks or any stage 2 deck right now automatically has like at least like 16 or 18 Pokemon anyway. But they do end up knocking out my Mew, and now I can just Prime Catcher and knock out their Mew for game. So that ended up being a pretty good game, I guess. I don't know. It kind of ran away with it once I copied their V-Star, but on to the next one. Alright, so this, I believe, yeah, this is the Dialga deck that I was talking about at the beginning of last game with the 1-1 Palkia and the 1-1 Arceus. So if they get down a Palkia, that's kind of scary. If they can start getting waters into the discard pile, they could kind of really mess up my setup, but luckily they probably didn't have any waters in their hands, so they didn't want to just throw a Palkia down for no reason. But I think I'm going to kind of go for a similar game plan as last game if I can copy their V-Star attack and get an extra turn with my Mew. But other than that, I just want to get set up. I end up holding the hand because finding the stage 1s in this deck is kind of hard. And I thought about playing the Hyper Aroma instead of the Prime Catcher for that exact reason, like you can see this person did. I think that's a pretty good idea in this kind of format, but Prime Catcher is just, it's so strong and it wins you so many games that I just ended up sticking with that. But they're off to a really good start here. Yeah, I was going to say they're almost guaranteed to get 3 energy because, you know, they got, I think this person had 15 metals and 5 waters, if I remember correctly. But they're definitely going to knock out my Natu, which that kind of sucks. Now this kind of puts us into a weird spot where I don't remember if my TM Evo is even in the deck. I don't know if I even checked for it. That's why I'm kind of debating there. Luckily it's in there, so I'm just going to take another turn to develop my board. And in hindsight, I kind of wish that I got down 2 Natus, but I do end up Dracloaking into a Nest Ball, but I grabbed the Ultra Ball anyway. I thought I would grab the Nest Ball, but the Ultra Ball is going to guarantee an attack next turn, as so long as they don't boss up my guy with the fire energy on it. But even if they do, I could always send this Dreepy back up and retreat it into the Dracloak as long as I get a fire energy. But there's a lot of energy in this deck, so I would imagine that I would be able to get it off the Iono. Now they're set up pretty good. I think they're probably looking for an Arceus V-Star. And this whole time, I'm like, both games, I'm just worried about them using their V-Star attack. One thing I think I noticed is a lot of people, I think they wanted to save it for like a 4 prize turn or just to win the game off of it. But I think if they just retreated to the Dialga and used their V-Star right there, that would have put them in probably an insane spot to just win the game. Because they would have just taken out so many of my setup Pokemon. I would have had to send up a Dracloak or my Xatu, so I would have sent up the Dracloak. It just wouldn't have been good for me, so I definitely think they should use that. And I just keep this is like one of the reasons that I think Live's RNG is messed up. I think the past 3 or 4 Dracloak abilities I used have been into Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, and that was my last Nest Ball in the deck, I'm pretty sure. So that's just something that's kind of weird to me. I get out the Greninja for a little extra draw. I am kind of looking for Mew at this point. I do want to be able to Mew next turn, or whenever they bring up their Dialga V-Star to not like probably knock out my Dragapult. I want to be able to knock them out with copying Star Chronos. But I didn't want to put the Mew down in advance because that would give them an opportunity to like boss the Mew, Star Chronos it, and then knock out something else. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking I got to get a little bit lucky to win this game. And yeah, they're just so far ahead. So I have to use the Ultra Ball. I really have no choice there. I think I'm out of Nest Balls, so I couldn't really hit that. But if I drew the Mew raw, that would have been kind of nice. And that's really all I needed was another Psychic Energy. Now I can copy their attack. And I just have to get into a Dragapult the turn after that. And like Iona them to 2 and hope that they can't boss up my Mew and knock it out. Or I can't even Iona them next turn. I have to knock out this Arceus because they're oh no, I have my Prime Catcher in hand. Wow, I'm like having trouble right now for some reason. But luckily I have that Prime Catcher, so this is gonna put me in a really good spot. Normally you want to use the boss first because boss is much more limited than Prime Catcher, because you can draw Prime Catcher off of an Iono and use it, but I also want Iono this turn, so I kind of have to use it. I use all my draw abilities first because I just have a ton of energy in hand. I barely have any cards left in my deck, so I'm probably going to get into whatever I need anyway. And I benched the Mewtwo just to have a better target to put energy on, and it will allow me to one-shot something if they put like another Dialga V into the active or something like that. So I just thinned my deck out a little bit more here. I should draw with Mew. And then now, I don't know what they're really going to do. They don't have any attackers in play, and as long as I get into a boss next turn, I can just win by bossing something up and knocking out the Metang off of the bench. And I thought that these Dialga games in particular were really cool just because of how far behind I went, and then being able to use Mew to use their own attack would just bring me back into the game. And they're almost out of energies, but I think all of these Dialga decks that I played against were playing like 2 or 3 super rods, which I went with like the opposite approach. I figured you already got 20 energy in the deck, so I didn't want to play any recovery in my deck at all, because I wanted to kind of use the limits of the format to my advantage as much as I could. So here I'm just hoping to draw at least the Psychic Energy to try and get into boss, and now I can draw basically my whole deck. I'm trying to remember if I have my boss in there or if they're prized, but I won't deck out either way because I have access to 2 Iono. And yeah, I can just bring up their Metang and knock out the one off the bench too, and starting off 2-0, I'm definitely pretty happy with that in this kind of random format. Alright, so this round we are up against Miraidon deck. Now, Dragapult has kind of a hard time into Miraidon in the regular format, so I didn't really have high hopes for this matchup, but I was hoping I could figure something out. Now, we don't really have the greatest hand in the world here. I guess we can draw with Greninja and at least have a Dracloak for next turn. One card in hindsight that I maybe should have tried to squeeze into the deck was Lumineon. I don't know though. But luckily I hit an Iono off of that, and I really want to Ultra Ball here and just hold the hand so that I can get into a double Dracloak next turn. But I don't know how many Dracloaks are in the deck, and I don't really want to risk having like a couple prized or something, but I draw into another one right there anyway, so maybe I should have just Ultra Balled away Psychic and one of the Dracloaks. I don't get into an energy though, which is kind of awkward. I'm just reading the first attack there to make sure that I know what it does, because I want to just have something to send up to kind of hopefully tank a hit. They are playing double Zapdos though, so they can pretty easily knock that out with a Miraidon, but I don't really have the best board state here. I'm hoping to top deck an energy and then grab my Evo with Arven, I think. Like Poffin and Evo or something like that, even though I don't really know if the Evo's in the deck. But they are able to prime catcher my Dreepy anyway, but I still send up the Mewtwo, just kind of hoping to tank a hit. And now I just have to thin out my deck as much as possible to try and get an energy off of this Dracloak here, which I do have pretty good odds to hit an energy, as there is 20 in the deck still. Though I don't even risk using it to draw, which I probably could have in hindsight, but I don't, so I just use TM Evo. Now I have a pretty good board set up. As long as they don't have like energy, boss, amp one of my Dracloaks, I'll feel really good about the spot that I'm in this game. But they're just going to use Miraidon here, maybe to get... Oh, I thought they were going to get a Zapdos, but I guess not. And now they give us Townstar. I would have loved to have that last turn. They attach to the active, and they have Forest, so they are going to boss something up. And they do go with my Dracloak, which kind of figures. Now, I'm not in a very good spot in this game. The only thing that I can say that's kind of positive is that they only have one attacker set up, and they haven't been able to get anything else into play yet. Now, I kind of have to grab the fire there to draw with Greninja. I was kind of thinking that I lost at that point, but I forgot, you know, Greninja draws cards with energies. And I'm just going to hit into this for at least a little bit so that I can knock it out next turn with my Dragapult. Not having a backup Dreepy kind of sucks though. I kind of was hoping to draw like a Nest Ball or something, or at least a Poffin to get down another Dreepy. Actually, that might be my last one in the deck. I think this is the game that I prized 2 Dreepies. So definitely not getting another one down because there is no Super Rod or any way to recover any of them. But they do promote the Raikou, so I can knock that out and start setting up other things for a knockout, which is kind of nice. And, oh, they can't even knock me out, so that's kind of cool. They're trying to save their Iron Hands, though, but I do have another Dreepy. I probably should have Ultra Balled for the Dreepy last turn, but whatever, I didn't. I don't know, I was like worried about running out of energy in all the games, but I don't know why I would be worried about that. I have a ton of energy. I could have just Ultra Balled away 2 of them and not really worried too much about it. But I probably will I could just Prime Catcher here because I don't really want to retreat this Mewtwo. I want to save it for later to have something like a one-shot option to probably finish off the game. Probably another card I could have played was Blood Moon Ursaluna, but I didn't have any switches in my deck or anything like that, so I didn't really want to play a card that if I started it, I was going to have to manually attach 3 times just to retreat it. I don't know if that would have really put me in the best spot. And here I'm just trying to think if there's anywhere at all that's relevant to put the extra damage, because I know I wanted 20 on the Miraidon. Other than that though, the damage doesn't do the most there, but I figured that I could knock out the Mew with the less energy with Mewtwo now. Which in hindsight didn't really matter because they just boss up my Mewtwo anyway, and now they're going to be able to go down to 1 prize, which is kind of scary because I believe this deck played 3 boss, so they have like decent odds of hitting it off of, well, I'm going to Iona them to 1, and then off of their Mew they might be able to get into it, but kind of got to hope that they don't because that is the only win condition that I have. I'm just going to accelerate some more energy here just to get a backup guy all set up and thin my deck as much as possible so that I have the ability to get to like boss or something like that on the next turn. And I do hit it off of the recon directive, so that's kind of nice. That's all I was really looking for, because I'm guessing that they're going to retreat into their Zapdos if they can't win the game right here. So I have to have access to boss to bring up you know, any one of these bench Pokemon to finish off the game. And they do restart. Here I'm just like really hoping that they don't hit a boss. That would be pretty unfortunate. This would be a really cool comeback. They do use or bench the Greninja and use concealed cards, so they don't have access to Lumineon or any other draw that they might have. And they're taking a while. I'm really hoping that they're not BMing here. This is like one of those nerve-wracking moments. You're just hoping they don't have it. And they retreat into Greninja and pass. So we do get kind of lucky in that one, to be honest. So this is my first matchup versus Lugia here. I was kind of expecting to hit a few of these, but I do have the Mewtwo in my hand, which I think at this point I still thought it was going to be a lot better in the matchup. I hadn't really figured exactly how hard it was going to be to get that many energy into play, and exactly how many I needed to knock out a Lugia. I was really hoping they would pass again, because this is a pretty hard matchup for Dragapult, as they do have one-shot options. They have Iron Hands, and even just Lugia itself is really hard to knock out. This person is playing a full 4 Mist Energy as well, and I can't attack turn 2 at all, because rare candies just weren't going to fit into this deck. So there's no way I'm attacking. And now I just have to hope that they don't get the double Archeops next turn, I guess. And I don't know. This game I think goes pretty quick if I remember correctly. I'm just debating where to attach here, because I was trying to figure out if I could knock out this Lugia at all with my Mewtwo, but there's just no possible way that that's gonna happen, unfortunately. I can do 140 to it, and even with 3 psychics in play, I'm only doing 200 even, so I need 4 psychics or 5 psychics to knock out the V-Star, which in my head that was like really easy before I started playing the actual games. It seemed really easy to get to that like turn 2 and stuff, but it's not at all, because this is just kind of a slower format, and Lugia and Miraidon are probably the best 2 decks to go really fast. Really kind of Dialga too. As you can see, most of my Dialga opponents could have used Star Chronos on basically turn 2 or turn 3, both games, but they do have everything they need to knock out my Mewtwo. And I think in hindsight, I probably should have just left my Dracloak in the active. Like hitting that Lugia for 140 does let me knock it out with the extra damage over the course of a couple turns, but I don't know, they can just put a mist on it at any time, so it seems kind of unlikely. And here, yeah, this just doesn't look very good. I think I have to get Prime Catcher if I want to use my Dragapult's attack. It's kind of weird animation glitching out there, but yeah, that's another thing I kind of ran into. Getting down Mew early like ended up being really important, but it was also a huge liability, which kind of sucked, because they giving them 2 free prizes, but having the free retreat was probably worth it. Maybe I should have played like a Cleffa or a rescue board though. Also, I should have definitely put the 6 damage onto the Cinccino to stop this play. I think that would have made it so I was in a pretty good spot. I could potentially boss up the Archeops and knock out the Cinccino at the same time, while hopefully Ionoing them to 2. But I didn't do that, and I think this kind of locks up the game for them, unfortunately. The other kind of funny part is these games did go pretty quick. Like quicker than regular standard, I think. Even though I'm probably gonna take forever on this turn. Because I have to boss up their Cinccino and knock it out, or else I basically just lose. And that gives them gift energy, which I can't boss and Iono, but even if I could. So they're gonna get a bunch of extra cards. But you do have to kind of see if your opponent has it or not. Oh, I didn't end up getting it anyway. So I'm trying to think here, like rack my brain if there's anything at all that I can do. But I just don't think that there is. I can't even knock out this Iron Hand. I guess my only win condition is my opponent forgets that retreating is a thing and just leaves this in the active spot, and then I can like knock out both these things next turn. I don't know. Definitely not looking good. Yeah, and they do just retreat as I thought they would. I probably should have just scooped that one up. Alright, so round 5 I got paired into Alugia, Cyrus Davis, and we just ID'd into Top Cut, and I did get paired to them again in top 8, so this is my game against Cyrus. Which, what are the chances that in like a weird alternate format you'd run into someone that won NAIC? Not obviously Andrew Hedrick won it last year, but they won it the year before. So this is against Lugia, which this is a better matchup than the other Lugia because they're only playing 2 Mist Energy in this deck. So that does make it a little bit easier, but I started my Mewtwo here. I chose to go first, and I have an alright hand. I can just evolve to Xatu and attach to the active and hit into this Lugia. Now, I should have benched 2 Natus. I don't know why I didn't do that. I only benched 1 because for some reason, I don't know. I don't know why I did that. That was really dumb. Because now I just have no chance of knocking them out at all. Whereas with 2 Natus, I would have a chance to just win the game on the spot. And this is, like, I wouldn't have gotten it anyway, but this is definitely a game that you want to have a chance to do that because it's a bad matchup. So I should have just gotten that. I didn't really think about it though. So I'm kind of kicking myself here. Now I'm going to hit him for 200. And yeah, hopefully they don't get Archeops out. I know I was thinking Lugia would be a bit clunkier in this format because it's already basically made of bricks, and now they had to cut 3 more potentially consistency cards to add 3 more energy. I think Lugia always plays around 20 Pokemon. So I don't know. I guess it's basically just the standard Lugia list. Probably just minus like a Stadium Bomb, and I don't know what else they would have to cut. I think Cyrus did have a Mesagoza in the list. Oh, so they do read the wind again. This is going to be a pretty good chance for me to get ahead in this game. Now I can either attack with the Mewtwo again or a Dragapult. To attack with Dragapult, I would have to retreat both these energies off. I don't know, but I do find the other Xatu, which is pretty nice. And now, like, this is kind of an insane board setup. Whenever I got a board like this, the game seemed to go pretty well. I grabbed TM Evo there because I already have 2 Arbit in my hand. Cyrus was playing, I think, like 3 Ionos. So I didn't want to put like all my Arbins into my hand, and I wanted to have some Ultra Ball fodder. I do get the Prime Catcher though, so that I can hit into this Lugia and also knock out the one on the bench, not activate Gift Energy, and start setting up the Ursaluna to be knocked out with Dragapult's attack, or make it a little bit easier for Mewtwo to knock out. Now this is kind of why the Mewtwo ended up being pretty useless, because I would always end up just wanting to start to 2-shot the Lugias either way. So I didn't need like a lightning Pokemon to try and 1-shot it. But you know, it's like a weird format. You don't know what's going to happen. I think that is a legacy. Oh no, this is what messes me up in the game. I thought that was a legacy energy on the Blood Moon, but it's not. It's a luminous energy. Obviously, I didn't look very closely at the list, I guess, but Cyrus did choose to play, I think, 1 or 2 luminous energies. I think it might have just been completely for the memes. Probably would have had a much better matchup here if those luminous were, what's it called? Mist energies. Wow. Because there's only 2, but I'm trying to think of what the luminous energy would be for. I don't think there was a Radzard in here, but maybe there was. I can't fully remember. But I pretty much have all the options that I would ever want in this hand. And here I'm like sitting here thinking, how can I get around, or am I able to get around this Ursaluna for the entire game? Because in my head it's only giving up one prize, but that is not a legacy energy, that is just a luminous energy, so that's pretty dumb of me. And here I'm just really struggling with what to boss up, if I should boss this Lugia and knock it out, or if I should boss the Archeops and keep setting up the Lugia to not be knocked out with my extra damage. But I'm worried about them putting a mist on it, so I just take care of the Lugia right now and hoping that I can eventually get through the rest of the stuff. I probably should have just knocked out the Archeops and put the 6 damage on the Lugia. I put 3 on each Archeops so that they have 120 HP left each. And it was kind of funny, like a minute ago I Ultra Balled and didn't get the Xatu, so I could draw with Mew, and then I end up just Mewing into the only Pokemon left in my deck. But my deck is pretty thinned out here, so even if they Iona me, I have pretty good odds of drawing something. But they do end up getting their own boss and retreating into the Ursaluna. I don't know. In between the games, I'm probably going to check if there was a, what's it called, Radzard in the deck or anything, or if the luminous energies were just for the memes. But the Lumineon does get a legacy energy, so that's when I realized that this is not legacy energy on this Blood Moon Ursaluna. It is in fact a luminous energy, so it's worth 2 prize cards, not 1. But hopefully I can just win over the next couple turns. Just gonna draw some cards, put energies on both my Xatus so that they can't be stalled, and hit into this Ursaluna. It also can't attack next turn, which is kind of nice, but it will need to be retreated either way, or I just win, basically. And off the Iono, I think that there's pretty good odds that they don't get anything. Probably just looking through the deck here, trying to figure out what the best play would be. Get a Jet Energy, which is kind of nice, I guess. Now they can set up the 2-shot, and if I can't get boss this turn, I do just lose. But I can draw most of my deck, and I do hit the boss off of the first trade anyway, and I kind of struggle there. I don't know why I'm like always worried about things like tricking me. I think if I knock out the Blood Moon, it's only going to be worth 1 prize or something, but they do end up winning the first game. Alright, so I did just check the list, and Cyrus did play a Radzard, so the luminous energies are not in fact for the memes, but they do choose to go second, which I thought was interesting. I just assumed that he would want to go first, but I don't know. Second seemed appropriate, which is interesting. I think there was a one Carmine in the list, so going first still seems pretty good, but I get a pretty good start for going first here. Or actually, probably the thought was if Lugia gets set up, it probably just runs over Dragapult, so going second just seems good. They get access to any supporter that they want to use, and I can't do anything about it because I can't rare candy. I have to manually evolve, but I can get into my Mewtwo, which I probably don't actually even have a chance to knock out this Lugia with it. Yeah, I just counted right there. And when I was playing, I could see how I moved the mouse. Nope, it's still only 2. That is how math works. It's very simple. So I can't knock this Lugia out, which kind of sucks. I was hoping to get TM Evo there, but it's not in the deck. It is prized. I could only fit 1 without like cutting into ball cards too much. And I wasn't really prize checking the best every game because this is just a fun format. Here I'm just like struggling to decide what to attach to. I was thinking about doing the triple strike attack, but I do just hold the psychics because that is more draw power for next turn. And I don't really expect to get Iono'd, but I guess it is possible. If they get down Lugia with Legacy and get rid of a lot of energies, both of the missed energies. So that's like a great sign for me. The fact that both the mists are gone and they fail the Messagoza to try to read the wind away another Archeops. So I don't know, things are looking up. And I do flip heads on the Messagoza. That is how it always goes, it seems like. But I am going to be able to attack this turn, and I draw into another Dracloak, so I should be able to get almost anything that I want. Except for apparently another Xatu, because that is all that I really want right now. And I just go into Fire Psychic. That happens a couple times throughout the tournament where I would just Dracloak into the same thing over and over again. Which the Fire Psychic does make more sense because there's a lot of Psychics and Fires. So I just get rid of Ultra Ball and Fire because I really only need like 2 or 3 Fires throughout any given game. But Psychics always can draw me cards, so definitely want to keep those. I put 30 on the Iron Hands, obviously so that I can knock it out with Dragapult, and put the rest on the Mew, since there is no better option. And maybe I can eventually knock Mew out off of the bench, because nothing is getting a missed energy this game, so I don't have to worry about that at all, which is kind of cool. Definitely a relief for Dragapult. I don't know how many missed Dragapult plays or Lugia plays in the regular format, but I could see if you can attack turn 2 with Dragapult, the matchup actually not being like terrible, but they definitely can just run you over pretty quick if they get like exactly this Iron Hands boss, and they can just win in 3 turns. And like if they get 2 bosses and you can't knock out their Iron Hands, they can just go boss, knock you out with Weird Ear, and they win. I flipped the Messagoza first because I think that is the best sequencing to pull the Pokemon out of my deck so that I have better odds to draw just anything else. I don't even know what I'm looking for here in particular. I don't think it's really anything at all. I am not crazy about knocking out this Iron Hands for 1 prize, but I probably should, just so that they can't keep bossing and taking more prizes. I could also though knock out one of their Archeops to make it less likely that they can knock me out with Weird Ear, because that is like the biggest threat, I think. And I don't know if they have the best odds of having another boss in their hand, and they would get an extra card off the gift. I don't know. You can see I'm kind of struggling with that here. And it looks like I do just end up knocking out the Archeops, and I'm going to throw the rest of enough damage on the Lugia so that I can knock it out with 1 more thing. And then I also want to set up the other Archeops to be knocked out with 2 more ping damage, the 60s. Alright, so Mew gets sent up, and now they do get Tails, so they have Lumineon, or they could have got Weird Ear if they wanted to, but I don't think that there's enough energy in play. Now, I was thinking that they were just going to boss and knock out one of my Zatus, but they choose to Iono, which is kind of nice for me. I don't really mind that. I think my Prime Catcher was on the bottom of the deck anyway. It wasn't in my hand, I don't think. That is how good my memory is. It lasts literally 2 seconds. But I was kind of expecting to just lose this matchup because it is a really hard matchup, and Cyrus is a pretty good player. I don't think he can win NAIC without being a good player. And yeah, I figured I was just going to end up losing this. Oh, I don't remember if I said this, but we ID'd. Yeah, I did say it. We ID'd in a Top Cut, and then this is the game 2 of Top Cut, which I don't know. At this point, I'm like, oh, I'm fine with losing because it was getting kind of late. We have been playing for a while. Oh, and Cyrus did say that they meant to attach the energy, those 2 energies, to their Lugia, and then attack me with Lugia, which makes, obviously makes sense, because then the Lugia is not on the bench to be knocked out with the ping damage, and that just like gives me 1 less prize card or 2 less prize cards. or no, 1, because now I can knock out Iron Hands and the Lugia. So that was a mistake, but they said that in the chat thing after the game. Misclicks do happen. Well, that is super unfortunate. Apparently that game got kind of corrupted, and I was just I do end up winning that match, so I end up winning that 2-0. I think I'm able to kind of play around gift energy and just brick Cyrus out of the game, more or less, like Iono, not activate gift. They can't really set up any big attackers because they only have 1 Archeops, and I win in 1 or 2 more turns. But, or maybe I even bossed the Lugia or the Lumineon the next turn for a game. I think I did that. But then the next round I played against another Lugia, and that game is kind of fine, but it's really boring. And at the end it's corrupted, or not corrupted, but it's weird. The gameplay just stops working and my mouse is still moving around and stuff. I gotta figure out what's going on with that, or just start recording with OBS, but the audio gets all weird on OBS, so I really don't know what to do. But I end up winning that set 2-0, and then top 4 I just get absolutely bodied by both games are exactly the same. They get turn 2 Iron Hands, knock out the active, the next turn boss something, and then then that's when I'm able to attack, and I can't even knock out the Iron Hands, so they just win both games in 4 turns. And I do end up getting 3rd in that tournament, and I don't know, it was a lot of fun. It was a really cool format. I really like these alternate formats. I know I've seen other tournaments that are like, they're not an alternate format exactly, but every week they were banning a different deck, like whichever deck would do the best, I think. So that was kind of cool too. At a certain point, you're going to end up being forced to play all non-meta decks, which is really fun. But yeah, so like or dislike and comment and subscribe, and hope you guys enjoyed and have a good one.